He thought he could get away with hurting the waitress, but he had no idea who was quietly sitting behind him. What happened next shocked everyone in the diner. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Where are you watching from? Let's get started. Popular spot tucked away in downtown Las Vegas. The neon lights flickered softly outside, casting a warm glow through the windows, and the scent of sizzling burgers and fresh coffee filled the air. The diner was packed with locals and tourists alike, all seeking comfort food and a place to unwind after a long day. Among them, a man in his mid-30s, wearing a leather jacket and a look of impatience, leaned against the counter. He was clearly in a bad mood, tapping his foot and glaring at anyone who crossed his path. Behind the counter, a young waitress named Emily was balancing orders with practiced ease. She had been working double shifts all week, but her smile never faltered. Her energy and warmth were exactly what the diner relied on to keep its customers happy. Emily had grown up in Las Vegas, knew most of the regulars by name, and had a natural charm that put everyone at ease. But even the most patient person has a breaking point, and tonight would test her in ways she never expected. The man at the counter slammed his hand on the countertop, demanding his food faster. His voice was loud, sharp, and clearly meant to intimidate. Emily approached him calmly, carrying a tray with a plate of fries and a milkshake. "Here, your order, sir," she said politely, trying to keep the situation from escalating. Instead of thanking her, he sneered. Without warning, he swung his leg out and kicked her directly in the face. The diner went silent for a split second as everyone froze, unable to believe what had just happened. Emily stumbled back, shock and pain registering on her face. Her co-workers rushed to her side while a few brave patrons stood up, ready to confront the man. But before anyone could act, he started laughing, thinking his intimidation had worked. Little did he know, however, that he had no idea who was sitting at the counter just behind him. The man he thought was just another quiet diner customer was someone with influence, reputation, and a sense of justice that wouldn't allow such behavior to go unanswered. The tension in the room grew thick, and the diner seemed to hold its collective breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Emily, still dazed, touched her cheek and tried to stay on her feet. She had never experienced anything like this in her life, and the shock of the attack mixed with the anger boiling inside her. Around her, regulars murmured and whispered among themselves, some pulling out their phones, unsure whether to call the police immediately or let the situation resolve differently. The leather-jacketed man was still smirking, unaware of the storm he had just triggered. The air in the diner was charged with anticipation. Everyone could feel that something big was about to happen, an event that would change a simple night at a Las Vegas diner into a story that would be told for years. And it all started with one thoughtless, violent kick that no one could have predicted. The man at the counter, still smirking after kicking Emily, didn't notice the sudden shift in the atmosphere. The diner had gone quiet, the usual chatter replaced by tense, wary glances. Behind him, sitting at the counter with his coffee untouched, was a man who didn't look like much at first glance, a casually dressed, middle-aged figure with an unassuming presence. But in the world of Las Vegas, appearances could be deceiving. This man was someone people respected, feared, and never underestimated. Michael "Iron Mike" Donovan, a retired Navy SEAL turned private security consultant, known for taking care of those who couldn't protect themselves. When he saw what happened, his eyes narrowed. Michael's instincts kicked in instantly. He didn't move aggressively at first. Instead, he observed, calculating the situation. The aggressor, emboldened by what he assumed was Emily's helplessness, didn't notice Michael shifting slightly in his seat, positioning himself between the man and the rest of the diner. "Hey," Michael said quietly, but his voice carried the kind of calm authority that made people instinctively pay attention. The man at the counter turned, his smirk faltering slightly as he recognized a subtle, commanding presence he hadn't expected. "You just kicked someone in the face," Michael continued, his tone cold but controlled. "And that's not going to fly here." The man laughed nervously, thinking he could still intimidate Michael. But before he could react, Michael was on his feet, moving smoothly and deliberately. Patrons instinctively backed away, giving him space, while Emily recovered behind the counter. With a simple gesture, Michael signaled her to stay back. He didn't raise his voice or make threats. He simply made it clear that justice, swift and inevitable, was about to be served. The aggressor suddenly realized he was completely out of his depth. The smirk disappeared, replaced by a creeping sense of fear. Michael didn't need to shout. His presence alone conveyed a message stronger than any words. You've made a huge mistake. The man's bravado crumbled, and he started stammering excuses that fell flat. Everyone in the diner watched, captivated by the scene unfolding. Then with a quiet but firm tone, Michael addressed him directly. You hurt someone who didn't deserve it. You're going to make this right, or the authorities will get involved, and trust me, you don't want that. The man, now pale and shaken, nodded frantically. He could see that the days of bullying and intimidation were over in this diner. Emily, still holding her cheek, felt a surge of relief. The fear and pain she had felt moments ago were giving way to gratitude and awe. Michael returned to his seat, picking up his coffee as if nothing had happened, letting the diner relax again. People began murmuring appreciatively, and Emily's co-workers slowly returned to their posts. What started as a shocking act of violence had been stopped almost immediately by someone who refused to tolerate it. And as for the man who kicked the waitress, he learned the hard way that in America, sometimes the quietest person at the counter is the one you absolutely don't want to mess with.